What's up, folks? In the last video, I talked about evidence for water on Mars, and a lot of the evidence um, dealt with water, what water would have done a long time ago. But what about water now? If there was water on Mars, did it just disappear, or is it still on Mars? What's going on with that? And this video is going to be really short, actually. Not too much to talk about. Really, scientists think that water is in two main spots on the planet. Definitely, there's water in Mars's polar caps, frozen in the polar caps, and that stays there most of the year, if not all the year, because up in the caps, the temperature of Mars doesn't get above freezing for water, and so it'll never melt there. But it's also thought, this is much harder to prove until we actually send something there that can dig deeper holes or send people there to dig holes and check it out. But we have a few pieces of evidence to show that Mars has a layer of permafrost. Permafrost is basically a layer of frozen water that's just underneath the surface. So all that water that supposedly might have been on Mars theoretically back billions of years ago, that might have been, flowing around if Mars is warmer and the atmosphere is thicker. Well, that water wouldn't just disappear. It's going to go somewhere, and so most likely it's been, in a sense, absorbed into the ground. And now that Mars is so cold, it was frozen. How can we tell that there might be water underneath? Well, um, if you have something hidden down below the surface and you can't probe it yourself, then you'll check and see if other things have revealed it. And the best way to get under the surface is to look at a crater hit the surface. Not only does a crater expose underground deeper parts of the ground when when it crashes into the planet, but it also heats it up, and so if any of the water was frozen there, it would have melted. And so this is a neat little picture here. This is a picture. This is like the rim of a crater, and taken by what was this? Surveyor. Surveyor probe that was uh, basically surveying the surface of Mars. Took a picture in August of '99 and saw this, and about 6 years later, not much has changed. You notice this piece has been more exposed right here for some reason, maybe winds. But most of the crater features look the same, except, whoa, before there was really nothing here. It was all just kind of uniform. Looks like there might be some little paths where water might have flowed, but look at that. What is this? Is that ice? Is that frozen mud? Um, we don't know for sure at this point because we haven't been able to um, get the right data needed to figure out what material it's made out of. But uh, very intriguing, very intriguing. This is just 6 years, which on the geological time scale is not very long at all. But let's look at Google Mars and check out some older craters and some effects of uh, what these explosions, in a sense, or these huge impacts into the planet might have done to any frozen water underneath. The first area I want to look at is here, kind of halfway between Hallis Basin and the Tharsis region here. So let's zoom in. And a lot of this is going to be my interpretation of what might have happened. Could be way off on this. I haven't really found any documentation anywhere detailing what might have happened here, but in my based on me looking at this for a little bit, this is higher, right? Yellows and reds are higher up, greens are lower. Water flows downhill, so most likely water would have flowed down this way, and maybe collected in here. And if you look closely at this crater, let's now that I've talked about elevation, this is higher land, lower land, and water flows downhill. Let's go to the visible and see what it looks like there. So somehow, and I was having a hard time trying to figure out what might have started this water flowing. You got a bunch of craters here, crater, 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 crater. Um, Although it looks like the water might have come from up in this area, so maybe this big crater right here released some water. I was looking at this and it's kind of interesting. It looks, like the rim is not really, it's about a similar wideness to the rim. In fact, if you look at my little cursor, it's maybe a little bit wider than the hand on my cursor, all the way until you get to about here, and then look how wide it gets. This like area is just wide, wide, wide. So something's a little different about this crater here. This crater looks pretty old though, because it looks very eroded. In fact, you have newer craters in the middle, but perchance maybe this flow of water came from this area. Maybe there's a bunch of permafrost under here that melted. You got, looks like water coming from here. Did it come from this crater maybe? It's not guaranteed that all of this water flowed at the same time, right? This path might have flowed earlier than these paths. In fact, some of these look more eroded than others. This looks like it might have been a path in the past, but looks pretty eroded, or it wasn't as much water, so it didn't cut as deep of a path. But anyway, water tries to seek the lowest point the easiest way possible, and what easier way is there than an original path? This is cutting its own path, and like, oh look, here's a path already there. Let's continue on down here, and it would make it bigger and bigger. And that's how rivers and streams work for the most part on Earth too. And they would flow downhill until they got into this crater, and it looks like this is to me was an interesting feature, almost like there was standing water in here. All this water would have come down and collected in here, and maybe the wind would have done something, or no, it almost looks like these sediments were washed down by the flow of water. Just you can picture the water going whoosh, and just kind of over time pushing these down, the flow of the water. So that's kind of an interesting one. And but this isn't as conclusive as others in terms of where the water originated. Did it originate from an impact? Let's see what it looks like in the infrared. That's pretty cool. And you can really see what stuff now. Although a lot of these pieces in the infrared are cut out, but almost looks like the water might have started up here and flowed down this way. But definitely cool. And you go down here. Ooh, that's neat. They got it in a different color. And this is actually should be even more detail if you zoom in. Look at that. Wow. Anyway, I could look at this for hours, but this is really intriguing. Actually, I've never seen this part of Mars before at this detail. And I did want to show you two more spots, and I'm already at 9 minutes. Geez, time flies. So let me zoom back out to elevation and show you those. The other one is just to the east of Valles Marineris. Let's go find Valles Marineris. Here's Tharsis, Arcia, and Pavonis. And right about here, look at this crater. This looks like an old crater, very eroded away. You can see a lot of cool things going on here, like these flows here. So now that we're here, let's go back to the visible and zoom in. So you got some flow action here going on here, which probably would have gone and maybe to about here. Although let's take a look again at elevation, which way is up and down. Maybe we'll zoom out a little more here. um, yellow is higher than green, right? So if this formed from an impact, then all probably water in this area would have been vaporized because the asteroid or whatever hit it would have gone in, impacted, and then all this stuff in the green here would have most likely turned to lava. It would have been so hot, and any water in there wouldn't have just melted. It probably would have vaporized. But as you get farther away, the heat is less intense, and so at some point the water wouldn't necessarily vaporize, and it would just the ice, sorry, wouldn't necessarily vaporize. It would just melt and turn to a liquid, and that's where the flows would probably start, and they would flow downhill into it. So that could possibly be what these are. Let's take a look again in the visible. See, melted water from this impact might have flowed down this hill into back into the crater. It's hard to say. And there's one more I wanted to show you down near. Let's see here. Where's my cursor? Yeah, down just below Hellas Basin. So let's zoom out, and then this video shall be finished. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. You can already actually see all the little wispy little flowy things. I sound like Bob Ross. Here we have a nice little happy. Anyway, so uh, let's just take a look at elevation real quick, because see all these little trails? Water flows downhill, so my thought is flowing this way down into Hellas, right? So let's look at the visible and see maybe where these might have come from. So you got a nice little impact here, right? This is definitely a fresher impact. This is definitely a much older impact. Look, these must be ancient. This one and this one here, just absolutely ancient. All these are just so eroded, and so maybe the water originated from this one or even this one. Now these flows, let's go in the infrared because infrared tends to show a little bit more shadow. But these flows look pretty eroded. If I were to guess, and this again, this is just my humble opinion, and I'm nowhere near an expert, but it almost looks like they would have come from this crater because the level of erosion, this just looks as smooth as this. This looks very new and fresh, and um, so maybe there was a lot of permafrost here, and that permafrost melted and flowed down into Hellas, and so that kind of emptied this area of permafrost. So when this hit, maybe there wasn't as much water to flow. You might see a little path here, maybe coming from this one, but again over here, you see some flows here. You can see some kind of like sinuous lines. Might have come from this crater, maybe. So anyway, suddenly this video turned into a long video. I apologize, but got a little carried away with describing this stuff. But this is extremely interesting. I really hope you can share the same passion and interest I have for this. I could look at Mars all freaking day. And on that note, I shall leave you until the next video. Take care.